Ciao, sono Mary Ann Esposito, and I'm just enjoying myself in this beautiful flower garden here in Gubbio, Umbria, just before I have to go into the kitchen at the Taverna del Lupo and cook with the owner, Mr. Mencarelli, and he promises to do a wonderful Umbrian meat dish. So you and I need to go nella cucina. A presto! That's it, real fast, real fast. Come on, get that baseball arm moving. Oh,
Ok.
okay. Non c'è ketchup.
No. Già vedi, mi fa la foto.
Basta?
Sì.
Sono molto delicati.
Molto delicato. Grazie a lei.
Grazie Mariana, grazie a voi.
You know, my mother's favorite leftover sandwich. Come on, you're Italian. Isn't this beautiful? Look at how pretty this is. It's delicious. How do you like that? I think you're great. And now we're ready to do the twist. So, looks gorgeous, smells wonderful.
I use my hands.
I love this woman. Okay. If you ever travel to Umbria, make sure you stop in the medieval town of Gubbio. And if you stop in Gubbio, be sure to stay at the Hotel Real Ducale, owned and operated by the Mencarelli Group. If this sounds like a commercial, it isn't. It's just the truth, because where you stay when you travel in Italy can make all the difference in the world. Mr. Mencarelli's daughter, Daniele, works here in the hotel every day, making sure that the family presence is always in sight. She is one busy woman, but not so busy to take time out and show me the beautiful garden on the 3rd floor of the hotel. Talk about clever, but smart too, because Gubbio is a medieval city built entirely from limestone, and fresh flowers blooming in the middle of all that rock is a treat for the eye. I wanted to find out from Daniele the secret of the Mencarelli's family success, how her father manages to operate so many hotels and restaurants, not only here in Italy, but in America too. There's a simple answer. The whole family pitches in and helps out. That's il segreto, the secret to many successful businesses in Italy. Now that you know that, I can share with you something else I know about Mr. Mencarelli. This is Taverna del Lupo, one of his restaurants, and it's where you'll find him most of the time. In the front, to be sure, making his guests feel comfortable. But also in the back, nella cucina, because Mr. Mencarelli is an excellent chef. And when I asked him if we could cook something together, he said, Faraona, which of course means guinea hen. E del burro. Okay, Signor Mencarelli today is going to make a typical Umbrian dish with pheasant, and he's going to use what he calls the herbs of the countryside. Here he's got some rosemary, he's got some sage, he's got some fennel tops, he's got onions, some ginepro, which are juniper berries, butter, extra virgine olive oil, dell'Umbria, Umbrian olive oil, of course, and some port and brandy. Allora, cominciamo.
Prego. Si prende dell'aglio.
Okay, so first he's going to cut up the wild aglio, the garlic. E sempre si usa aglio fresco. Sì, sempre. Always use fresh garlic. And now a little bit of sage, which is salvia in Italian, perché si fa un soffritto, sì?
Esatto,
Questi sono gli odori, sì?
Esatto, i profumi,
so
sì.
we have to have gli odori, you know, the
Noi li chiamiamo i profumi dell'orto.
Sì. We want all of those flavors from the garden. This is going to help flavor the dish, and also at the end he's going to make a sauce, una salsa, after he finishes up with the pheasant. Allora, un po' di ginepro.
Sì, questo è un po' più difficile tagliarlo perché bisogna stare attenti.
Sono piccole, sì.
a non rompersi le dita.
Sì, che bel profumo, sì.
Sì, molto, molto
Sì, molto
questo.
Now he's cutting up some juniper berries. He says they're very
Non
hard to
bisogna
cut up
metterne
because they're so
molto,
small.
non bisogna metterne molto perché poi diventa amaro questo.
Sì, he doesn't want to put too many in because, you know, you don't want to ruin the taste. So that's just enough.
Prendiamo un
Allora,
po' di sale e pepe anche.
sale e pepe.
Dunque adesso prendiamo dell'olio extravergine, ci possiamo mettere anche qui davanti.
Sì. Now a little extra virgine Umbrian olive oil, which is rather a dense olive oil, very green, has a nice peppery flavor. And you can find Umbrian olive oils at
Mettiamo
home.
queste verdure tutte assieme.
Tutti insieme. Everything goes in at once now, gli odori.
Sì, mettiamo assieme.
Sì.
Ecco qua.
Metta freddo
Sì.
in padella,
Adesso li
sì.
mettiamo sopra. Non mettiamo il burro lo mettiamo alla fine perché sennò si brucia e si ossida.
Sì.
E quando si ossida poi non si digerisce, e allora si mangia male.
Sì, all right. He's going to put the butter in last because if he puts it in now, it may get a little bit too brown,
Mettiamo questi-
oxidize a little bit, and doesn't
questi
make a good sauce.
un po' di-
Allora, che bel carne, sì,
Molto bello.
molto bello.
È una
Molto
carne
tenero.
molto tenera, una carne molto alternativa anche al vitello questa qui.
Sì, è tipico di Umbria, sì?
Sì, sì, questa sarebbe la Faraona.
Sì.
Erano dei polli un po' selvaggi. Sono un incrocio tra pollo e fagiano, diciamo, una
Sì,
carne
sì,
molto
sì.
nobile, molto apprezzata.
All right, so-
Adesso prendiamo questa padella e la mettiamo
Sì,
su
this is
fuoco.
meat with a pedigree, by the way.
Cerca di
E questo
cuocerlo.
è un piatto popolare nel ristorante Taverna del
Sì,
Lupo.
sì. Questo è un piatto molto popolare, specie adesso che abbiamo questo problema della carne di vitello.
Sì, sì, sì.
È una carne, vedi, molto bianca,
Sì.
molto saporita questa come carne. Dobbiamo aspettare un pochettino che deve essere un po' rosolata, vedi?
And he needs to cook it now until it starts to turn a little bit brown. But you know, this is where the creativity of the cook comes in, and also the genius of the cook is to know when that is cooked just right and it's not overcooked.
Bisogna farla rosolare
Sì.
perché in modo che i liquidi della carne non fuoriescono, perché quando è rosolata fa come da pellicola, cioè viene ermeticamente chiusa.
Sì. All right, so he's got to cook it until the juices of the meat no longer are running out of it. So you see how nice
Look.
and brown it's starting to get. And one important thing about cooking meat like this that I've learned over the years is you never ever want to crowd the pan with a lot of pieces. You want to allow enough room so the meat can cook uniformly and so you can turn the meat easily. Che bel profumo. Sì.
Sì. Sono dei bei profumi veramente. Ecco, vedi, quando è così va bene.
All right, when it's like this, it's fine. Now,
Adesso noi aggiungiamo un pochetto di brodo perché sennò si brucierebbe tutto.
all right, so he adds a little bit of broth now to keep the meat from burning. And you notice he's using that broth hot, so he doesn't bring down the temperature in the pan. That's another critical thing to remember.
Dai un po' di sale e pepe per favore, metti.
So the sale e pepe go in, a little bit of salt and pepper, and now goes in. And folks, this is homemade broth. You know, I'm always telling you, throw those bones in the
Mettiamo,
pot.
adesso che ha fatto la pellicola, mettiamo il sale
A little sale.
perché sennò anche questo ne assorbirebbe troppo.
Sale di mare.
Sì, sale di mare,
All
sì.
right, that's sea salt we're using.
Mettiamo
And
anche
now,
un pochino di
A
pepe.
little black pepper goes in.
Questo però se a qualcuno non piace non si può neanche mettere.
If
Non è
you
che...
don't like black pepper, leave it out.
Va bene uguale, va bene.
Si
Vedi
può
come
usare pepe bianco.
tutto, anche sì, quello che uno vuole, a
If you want to
piacimento.
use white pepper, you could use white pepper. I don't know about you, but I'm getting hungry.
Vedi come si fa la salsa già?
See, now you see how the juices are starting to thicken up a little bit. What's interesting here is he hasn't used any flour at all on the cutlets, so he didn't thicken the sauce at all. He's just letting it reduce down.
Mettiamo un po' di vino dolce, porto o marsala.
Okay, you can use either a little bit of port or you can use a marsala.
Che gli dà un po', diciamo, di gradevolezza alla
Sì.
Faraona perché potrebbe essere un po'
Sì.
selvaggia, diciamo, no?
Si può usare i vini umbri.
Sì.
Che tipo di vino? Montefalco bianco?
Sì, ma no, non va bene, no, ci vuole un vino dolce, un vino tipo
Vino
Marsala,
dolce,
tipo
okay.
Porto,
You need a
Marsala.
sweet wine. All right. Questa è cucina rapida.
Sì, ma oggi sono i piatti veloci ci vogliono
sì.
e non devono essere riscaldati. Quando si è preparato si deve subito mangiare,
Sì,
perché sennò perde molte proteine, molte sostanze e poi se la carne è riscaldata si ossida con dei batteri che non vanno bene.
All right, this is a dish, you know, once it's made, you eat
Adesso
it
mettiamo
right
un po'
away.
di
Now we have
un po' di cognac, a little bit di cognac.
cognac. Stand back, folks. Okay, that's looking great. Whoa! Great.
Una bella flambata.
Sì.
Fa un po' di scena questa, no?
Sì. A little bit more broth goes in. And now the butter. Questo è burro senza sale. Senza sale, sempre. All right, this is unsalted butter. The minute that goes in, you see what a nice sauce that starts. It binds the whole thing together. Wonderful. Who says
Look,
sauce
la
is...
salsa,
Sì, la salsa è bella.
Senza niente, normale, hai visto? Non ci abbiamo
sì.
messo niente di strano,
Didn't put anything
Il
strange
burro
in there.
ancora, vedi, quando è sciolto il
sì,
burro
sì,
la carne è pronta.
sì.
Il burro non ha tempo neanche di ossidarsi.
Sì. When the butter is melted, this is ready.
Perché se no, se il burro si ossida poi non viene buona la salsa. Non abbiamo messo nessun ingrediente strano, hai visto? Questo è ready,
È ready, è pronto.
Adesso vogliamo tagliarla?
Sì.
Componiamo il piatto.
Sì, bisogna un piatto, sì. Ok, so now we're going
Ho preso
to...
un po' di insalatina.
Sì, insalatina. He's
La mettiamo sul
shredded up
piatto.
some lettuce. Now he's going to plate the pheasant with the
Poi
sauce.
prendiamo questa.
Okay, how beautiful. And he's going to cut it first. Nice slices. Sì, sottile.
Guarda che bello,
sì. È perfetto.
Sì.
Look at how tender that is. Still pinky in the middle, not overcooked.
Sono un bravo cuoco, è cotta perfettamente, la vedi?
Sì, perfettamente.
Poi si prende.
Sì. A nice little display. This is all in the part of it. The presentation is really important. I hope he's going to share.
Questa bisogna tagliarla sottile perché dopo la salsa viene messa sopra.
He's cutting it thin so that the sauce really permeates the pieces.
Possiamo metterla
Sì.
così. Prendiamo la salsa.
La salsa. Oh, look at how simple this is. You can do this at home. Very
Questi sono
simply
piatti
prepared.
molto semplici che rispecchiano un po' le tradizioni della cucina di una volta con degli accorgimenti un po' più moderni.
Sì. I mean, this is a traditional dish which has a little bit of modern embellishment to it. Allora,
con questo vi diciamo buon appetito.
Buon appetito, buon divertimento.
Buon divertimento.
Io posso
anche
avere un assaggio?
Sì. Si potrebbe anche fare. Mettere anche così per dare un po' di
Put a little bit of the odori that you started with.
Sì.
All of this is up
Adesso
here.
può prendere un coltello e una forchetta.
Okay, now we're getting really creative because we're getting a fork.
Assaggia, va. Assaggia qui dal piatto direttamente, no?
Sì.
Ale, buon appetito.
Grazie.
That's okay?
Molto tenero. La salsa.
Flour is good.
Perfetto. I have exactly 10 minutes, 10 minuti, to do what Mr. Mencarelli did in his kitchen at Taverna del Lupo. I think I can do it. Because today I want to make something for you called Spiedo Misto. And I first had this in Umbria when I was at a little ristorante called La Stalla. And there they did everything on the grill. And we're grilling today too. So to start out, I need some peppers. And here I have just a variety of colored peppers, but I have a little bit of olive oil, and I want to cook them down. Not totally, I just want to soften them a little bit. So they've been cooking for about 5 minutes or so, and now I'm going to turn the heat up. And because, of course, we're talking about Umbrian cooking, I want to add some nice dry white Umbrian wine. And this is an Orvieto Classico Superiore. So we're going to just add a little bit of wine to this, just to flavor this a little bit. And just let that go, and I'll take those out in exactly 1 minute. So I'm going to let them cook down. And while they're cooking down, we need to make a marinade for our Spiedo Misto, because this really should be done the day ahead. So you want to start with some fresh lemon juice in a bowl. Don't use canned lemon juice, because anything in a can just does not have the same flavor as fresh. We're going to give this a little bit of sea salt. And now we're just going to whisk in some olive oil, some extra vergine. This is olive oil that comes from the very first pressing of the olives. And this is what we're going to use to pour over our meat mixture and allow it to marinate overnight. So get in enough extra virgin olive oil until you have a little emulsion going. And then what I always do, of course, is give this a little taste test just to make sure it's where it should be. Tastes good to me, and it's nice and lemony. So we're going to put that over to the side. And now let me check and see how we're doing here on our peppers. Well, they are looking good, and I'm going to take them out now into a bowl. So I want to drain off this wine, and actually what's left in the pan here you can use over the marinade if you want to, so nothing gets wasted. So all of that goes in the pan. I'm going to let that cool down now, because even though I can cook, I can't handle that when it's hot. So now we need to get the meat. And here we're going to use a variety of meats. This is why this is called Spiedo Misto, meaning a mixed grill. So, I want to start out first by taking a little tour of what we have here for meats. We've got some sweet Italian sausage that we just cut up into 1-inch pieces. Here's some chicken, just boneless chicken breast in chunks. Here's some beef. If you didn't want to use that, you could use veal. That would be appropriate too. And here we have some pork, boneless pork. And here we have pancetta, which is Italian unsmoked bacon. And I'm going to be cutting that up into chunks. But the first thing I have to do is cut up some garlic. So we have some fresh garlic here. And again, don't use garlic in a can. Use fresh garlic, which will make all the difference in what you're preparing. We just want to mince that up a little bit. I'm going to put this with our pork and allow all of these meats to marinate sufficiently before we want to put them on the grill. In Umbria, a lot of cooking is alla griglia. Remember that phrase, alla griglia. This is the type of cooking that you're going to find in Umbria. All right, there is our garlic, smelling wonderful. So let's work with chicken first, and we're going to put in this little bag. This is a great idea for when you have to marinate. I have some minced sage in there, or rosemary actually, and put in a little bit of black pepper, and how about some sea salt, just like that. Then I take the meat and just put it in the bag. Close up the bag, and then just shake this all around. And actually, this is a great idea if you're using marinades too, and you don't want to use a bowl, you can put them in a bag. So there is our chicken. Now we have beef with sage. The beef goes in the bag. Add a little bit of pepper and a little bit of salt. Close the bag up and do the same thing. marrying all of these herbs right around the meat. Make sure you're using fresh herbs. So we have those two, and now we need to simply take some of this garlic and put it over our pork pieces. Not too much, because you don't want to overpower this. This gets a little black pepper. This gets a little salt. And now we're ready to put this together. Now let me move this out of the way and cut up for you the pancetta. And you can find this in a grocery store. You can find it more readily now than you used to be able to. I'm going to just cut this up into chunks. If you couldn't find this, well, then you could get just regular bacon. So I'm just going to cut it up into pieces, and this is going to help give some really nice flavor. Okay, now we have that. I got to wash my hands. You know, when you're dealing with raw meat, you really want to make sure that you get your hands clean before you go to the next thing. Okay, now we can begin to have a little fun. So you want to get out some skewers. You can either use metal skewers or you could use a wooden skewer. This is why this is called Spiedo Misto. This is the Spiedo. And then there's no rhyme or reason to this. You can start with whatever you want to. Let's start with a nice colorful pepper. And so we want to put a piece of pepper on. Then how about a chunk of this pancetta to go on? How about the chicken to go on? And you know what? With this clean hand, I'm going to get some sage leaves. In fact, isn't that cute? My fresh little sage plant. So you can put a sage leaf on, because sage is one of those favorite herbs in Umbria. Here's some Italian sausage, another piece of pepper. How about a piece of beef and a piece of pork, another sage leaf, and another piece of pepper. That is enough for one person. And here I have some marinating already, so I'm going to put that one in and just do one more for you. So one of these is certainly enough meat to serve one person. A pepper, and again, no rhyme or reason as to how this goes together, but you want to make sure that all the pieces of meat are the same size, because this all has to cook at the same time. Another sage leaf and another piece of pepper. Okay, once you got it like that, the marinade goes over the top, just like that. Then take a piece of plastic wrap, cover it, put it over the top, and now this goes in the refrigerator. You want to do this the night before, or at least 3 or 4 hours before you're going to put this on the grill. And you want to make sure that you have a really hot grill ready. So, hey, I beat the timer. There you have it. And I'll bet you that some of the ones that I've got cooking on that grill, I sent Gaetano out there to do it, are almost ready. Umbrian cooking alla griglia doesn't get any better than this. Here we have our skewered meats that we put on the grill, a variety of meats that you can use, from beef to pork to veal, sausage, pancetta, fresh sage leaves. And this is a great way to serve it. Just stick the skewers in a melon to hold them upright. And here, this is how you would have it if you were eating it in Umbria. A wonderful spiedo with a squirt of fresh lemon juice right over the top. And to wash it all down, how about a wonderful Umbrian red wine, Tourlot. And until I see you nella cucina again,
I'm Mary Ann Esposito. Ciao.